Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'alas salah, Hayya 'alas salah, Hayya 'alal falah, Hayya 'alal
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال الله: واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال الله تعالى: اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. In the name of Allah, the most merciful and the gracious. Allah praises you to all praises due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His help. We seek His forgiveness, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil within ourselves and from our evil deeds. There is no God but He. Whomsoever Allah guides, then none can misguide him. And whomsoever Allah misguides due to his own intentions, there can be no guide for him. I bear witness that there is no divinity deserving worship except Allah alone. And I bear witness that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his servant and his messenger. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon him, his pure family, his noble companions, and all those who follow him with righteousness until the day of judgment. Allah Almighty said, O you who have faith, fear Allah as it is His right to be feared, and don't die unless you are a Muslim. Also Allah said, fear Allah from whom you ask each other and in your family ties, for Allah is ever watchful over you. Verily, the most truthful speech is the book of Allah, and the best guidance and way of life is the guidance of Prophet Muhammad, peace be and the blessings be upon him, who guided us for Friday for the Jum'ah. When we come to take a bath, so Prophet Muhammad guided us that when we come to the Jum'ah to take a bath, before we come and put a nice perfume and put nice clothes and put a touch of perfume, and when we are in the masjid, his guidance is to not to talk to each other or engage in any form of distraction such as checking our phones and so on, and also to sit properly facing the speaker, the khatib, and give all of our attention to the khatib. So, amma ba'd, Allah said in the Holy Quran that in Surah Al-Imran, شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. Allah Himself is a witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Him, and so are the angels and people of knowledge. He is the maintainer of justice. There is no God worthy of worship except Him, the Almighty, All-Wise. And in this ayah, the thing that I want to focus today is the people of knowledge. And in other ayat, Allah also mentioned that يَرْفَعَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah will elevate those of you who are faithful and raise those gifted with knowledge and rank, and Allah is all aware of what you do. Also, Allah mentioned, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ غَفُورٌ. Of all of Allah's servants, only the knowledgeable are truly in awe of Him. Allah is indeed Almighty, all forgiving. So in today's khutbah, our focus will be on the virtues of seeking knowledge. It's intended as a reminder for you and for myself before you of what is the meaning of seeking knowledge according to Islam. And also a reminder for the virtues of seeking knowledge and the obligations of seeking knowledge in our deen. And a reminder about the characteristics of the student of knowledge and how should that reflect on the character and the motivations of a Muslim scientist in the current time. I will also briefly address how to deal with some of the challenging modern scientific topics and the questions as a Muslim researcher and scientist. So, for the first part, the virtues of seeking knowledge. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mentioned in the hadith, من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة وإن الملائكة لتضع أجنحتها رضا لطالب العلم وإن العالم لا يستغفر له من في السماوات ومن في الأرض حتى الحيتان في الماء وإن فضل العالم على العابد كفضل القمر ليلة البدر على سائر الكواكب وإن العلماء ورثة الأنبياء وإن الأنبياء لم يورثوا دينارا ولا درهما إنما ورثوا العلم فمن أخذه أخذ بحظ وافر. So the translation is that the Prophet of Allah says, whoever sets out on a path to seek knowledge there, Allah will make a path easy for him in paradise. And the angels will lower their wings for the student of knowledge out good pleasure over them. The inhabitants of the heavens and the earth and the fish in the deep water will ask forgiveness for the learned man. The superiority of the learned man over the devoted worshipper is like that of the moon on the night sky when it's full, over the rest of the planets. The learned scholar are the inheritors of the prophets, and the prophets leave neither dinar nor dirham, leaving only knowledge. And he who takes it takes an abundant portion. So this hadith is telling us about some of the reward and the distinction between people of knowledge and a normal or a regular person. And also in this hadith, it gives us an idea of how someone who may travel and face a lot of hardships in order to get education and learn can be rewarded if he made up his intention up front that this knowledge that he is seeking is for the sake of Allah and is the sake of fulfilling the obligation of Allah of being knowledgeable and worshipping Allah with knowledge. So also in another hadith the Prophet of Allah mentioned that طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. So seeking knowledge is a duty of all Muslims. Hence seeking knowledge is not just to make you different and elevate your state, but it's an obligation. But what is the knowledge that the Prophet mentioned and Allah is meaning here? Is it like the religious knowledge, only the religious knowledge, or it's both the religious knowledge and the worldly knowledge? So, for the first one, as a Muslim, you are obligated to have a certain minimum amount of religious knowledge that each one of us has to know in order to be able to live up to the life of a righteous Muslim. It is an obligation on each Muslim that varies from one another depending on his intellect, his time and formal education and the environment around him and the topics that he will face. So, in Islam, we are obligated to learn from our deen all what will allow us to perform our deen right and to have the yaqeen while worshipping Allah. But unfortunately we see that we have many great scientists and scholars in other fields who are encyclopedia in their field. They would go, whenever you ask them a question, they will give you a citation to exactly where to find it, and so on, and can make the best arguments about that. But they don't know, they only know very little about Islam. These are, of course, Muslim scientists. And I think it's inconsistency and a problem for them to be able to gain a knowledge in a field and not to gain a sufficient knowledge in Islam that allows you to live as a righteous Muslim. So it's not enough for those people which maybe myself is one of them, and many of the students and the professors here are one of them, that they dedicate a lot of their time to study about worldly knowledge and worldly science, but they dedicate very little in studying Islam and what they should be aware of to not only to live their Islam, but also to raise their kids and mediate the da'wah of Islam to others. So we shouldn't be like Banu Israel. When Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا أَمَانِيَّ وَإِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ لِيَشْتَرُوا بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا فَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا كَتَبَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا يَكْسِبُونَ. So the translation is that, and among them are the illiterate, who know nothing about the scripture except little, and so they wishfully speculate. Woe to those who distort the scripture with their own hands, then say, this is from Allah, seeking a fleeting gain. So woe to them for what their hands have written, and woe to them for what they have earned. So in Ash'arawi tafsir of this ayah, he mentioned that this ayah set a distinction between Muslims and others from the people of the book. For Muslims, they are responsible about what they do. Even if you have a scholar who told you what is a fatwa or whatever, you have to have the minimum knowledge to judge and evaluate that, and you will be responsible. It's not, if it's something wrong, it's not only the mistake of the scholar who told you that, it will be your own mistake as well. So you have the responsibility to know and to learn from Islam what will guide you through life. And actually, in order to do that, we should, as we embark in our education and formal education, we should also dedicate part of our time for us and for our kids to learn about Islam, to have a daily word, like a routine part of your day or your week, to learn more about your religion. And in this community, we have a great opportunity in this mosque. We have almost each day after Fajr, we have lessons about Sahih al-Bukhari that are given by Imam Osman. We have many lessons after the prayers, Isha prayers in many days, that can be part of your daily routine that you should keep attending in order to learn more about our religion. But not only that, we should not only sit and listen as if we are hearing a general talk. We should also spend the time dedicating the effort as if you are studying to learn about Islam. Even if you will die tomorrow and will not use this knowledge, this is part of our obligation. So this is my thoughts about this. But on the other hand, aside from the religious knowledge, we also have an obligation to learn about the useful worldly knowledge, which is a communal obligation. It's a fard kifaya, which means that it has to be done by a certain group in the community for the areas of need, otherwise everyone in the community will sin. Usually, worldly knowledge can be split into three main categories. First is the natural sciences, social sciences, and then formal sciences. So I will give a quick definition about them. So natural sciences refers to scientific disciplines that seek to understand the natural world and its phenomena through empirical observations. Empirical observations and experimentation and theoretical explanation. So natural sciences is based on the principles of systematic observations and measurement and the formulation of testable hypotheses. Example of that, of course, physics, chemistry, biology, and earth science. Social science, on the other hand, is an area of the science that investigates human society, behavior, and interactions. So psychology, sociology, and anthropology and political science is part of that. Lastly, formal sciences are the area of science that deals with the study of formal systems ranging from mathematics and logic to computer science, data science, and information science. So we have obligations as Muslims to learn about all of that and to specialize in all of that. And as a proof of that, in some verses of the Quran, Allah mentioned things that indicate that we should learn about that. So the first ayah is قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ اللَّهُ يُنْشِئُ النَّشْأَةَ الْآخِرَةَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So the translation is, say, O Prophet, that travel through the land and see how he originated the creation. Then Allah will bring it into being one more time. Surely Allah is most capable of everything. So in this ayah, it guides us that we have to go through the earth and look and learn and see how Allah has started creation. Understand the physics of the world that as we observe it. And you have to do that while reflecting on the power of Allah and understanding that this all can't come to existence without the power of Allah, without a creator. Another verse is that أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا أَوْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارُ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. Have they not traveled throughout the land, so their hearts may reason, and their ears may listen? Indeed, it is not the eyes that are blind, but it is the hearts in the chest that grow blind. Another one, أَمْ خُلُقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ وَقَالُوا إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنْفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. So سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي أَنْفُسِهِمْ وَفِي الْآفَاقِ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ, which means we will show them our signs in the universe and within themselves until it became clear to them that this Quran is the truth. It is not enough that your Lord is a witness over all things. So in this ayat we see that Allah is telling us explicitly to go and learn about His creations, about how He made how He made this earth, how He made this universe, and also it also generalized to the other fields of science that I mentioned. Because, for example, you can't do physical and biological sciences without depending on logic and mathematics. Also, social sciences is important so that we can apply what we learn from there in our society and live in a healthy way. That all has to be according to Islam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد. So, if that's the case, what are the characteristics of the Muslim that he should have while going through this journey of learning and seeking knowledge, either in the general worldly sciences or in the Islamic knowledge or Islamic sciences? So, our Islamic principles and standards should reflect on our methodology of seeking knowledge. As a Muslim seeker of one of the worldly knowledge areas, you have to have certain characteristics that distinguish you from others, attributes that represent your identity as a Muslim, and agree with what the religion of Allah is guiding us for. So, a Muslim scientist, if you are researching a branch such as life science or physical science, you should all the time reflect on the power of Allah and His wisdom, and in His creation, and keep that all the time in the top of your mind. Unfortunately, we see in the current time that science, especially natural science, has become exclude. They try to make it agnostic towards any fact that related to religion. So whenever you have a scientist in a scientific setting that mentions something like subhanallah or whatever, you will find criticism for him, especially in the West, because they think that science has to ask the questions that are not related to anything related to religion or creation and so on. But this is not our ideology as Muslims. We seek this knowledge originally, in the first place, because Allah commanded us to do that. And we do that so that we fulfill our obligation and fulfill what the previous ayat that I mentioned is trying to advise us to do. But the point that how can a Muslim scientist who is applying the scientific method every day and dealing with stuff that are materialistic and has to be verified in the lab, at the same time has a belief in the unseen. So one of the most important parts of our religion is to believe in Allah, and Allah is an unseen. You can't prove the existence of Allah in the lab, right? So how can a Muslim scientist combine between these two and live consistently between these views? This is a question that I used to ask myself, and it bothered me for years, not just days. It bothered me for a very long time. Can you be a scientist and at the same time be a believer? So one of the first things that, especially in the modern time, because there are many of the scientific theories and the many things that would try to make you buy that the nature or the world doesn't need a creator to hold their laws. The world can sustain without any external power and so on. And unfortunately, growing up in a community, so I grew up in Egypt, but unfortunately in the scientific community, I find that the most prominent scientists and physicists are either non-religious or they have converted from Islam to atheism. So this has bothered me a lot. And I had to go through a journey to figure out the answer for this question. And I will come back to this part. But actually, I think every Muslim has to go through a journey of validating his religion. If he has certain doubts or he has certain questions that the world around us forces us to ask, you are obligated to worship Allah with yaqeen. With yaqeen means with assurance. You are not just speculating. You are not unsure. You have to be sure. So you have to go the journey. If this is something that came to your mind or you found that you needed to be comfortable, you have to go through this journey. And you are obligated to learn what will allow you to do that. And I will address that at the end of my khutbah. I will address some ideas that helped me a lot through this journey, because I think it's relevant to many, especially the new generation that faces a lot of these ideas over the internet and so on. But let me first resume my thoughts about what are the characteristics of the Muslim scientist, a researcher. So I would like to take this opportunity to let you know about a Muslim scholar, a Muslim scientist of the new era. He learned modern science in the West and was driven by the Islamic principles in his career and his life. His name is Dr. Ali Mustafa Musharrafa. He is one of the first Muslim and Arabian modern theoretical physicists and applied mathematicians, who was born in Egypt in 1898 After high school, due to his excellence in mathematics, the Egyptian Ministry of Education sent him to England, where he obtained a Bachelor of Science with honor from the University of Nottingham. He obtained a PhD in 1923 from the King's College, and then the following year, because his exceptional abilities and because that he was able to finish the program in the minimum time possible, he was awarded the degree of Doctor of Science, the first Egyptian and the scientist number 11 in the world to obtain this degree. This is due to his excellent achievements. He founded the Faculty of Science at Cairo University and served as its first dean, and he contributed to the foundation of the quantum theory as well as the theory of relativity. He was well known in the scientific community by scientists like Einstein, Niels Bohr, Max Born, and he had direct correspondence with most of them, and he also invited some of them to Egypt to give lectures. So, and also in 1974, the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton University, maybe one of the best institutes till now in theoretical physics, has invited him to join as a visiting professor at Princeton University to join Einstein and his colleagues in order to advance the physical science. But unfortunately, because of the many issues that he had in Egypt with the king of Egypt at this time, that he had many problems because of his fingerprints in the community and his ideas. So the king disapproved his travel, and he passed away not long after that. So what was interesting about this man is that he, even though he was coming from a country that didn't know anything about these sciences and so on, when he returned back, he was very interested in writing about science in Arabic and translate all what we know in Arabic. Not only that, he was also interested in the history of Arabian Muslim scholars. And he had retrieved many of the work of some of them, like, for example, the work of Al-Khwarizmi, of his book Al-Gabr wal-Muqabala, the correspondence book on calculations by completion and balancing. And this kitab represents the foundation of algebra in mathematics. So he retrieved this book and published it with one of his students. And he was the first to call for social reform and development based on scientific research. He also was keen on educating the public and raising their awareness. He used to have a show, a weekly talk in the radio about science, and he was addressing many topics that nobody at that time knew about it, like the nuclear energy, nuclear radiation, and so on. So he wrote many books. Especially his book on special relativity was written in Arabic, and this book was one of the first and the best books in special theory of relativity till now, and it was translated to 8 languages. And as part of his writings, he wrote a lot about the relation between science and religion, especially in the modern scope. And I will quote from one of his articles about science and manners, al-ilm wal-akhlaq. He mentioned about the characteristics that a true seeker of knowledge, of science, of natural science has to attain. So I will first say it in Arabic and then I will translate it. He said that فَطَالِبُ الْعِلْمِ طَالِبُ حَقِيقَةٍ وَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْحَقِيقَةَ أَحَبَّ الْحَقَّ وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ الْحَقَّ كَانَ صَادِقًا وَمَنْ كَانَ صَادِقًا كَانَ شُجَاعًا ومن كان شجاعا كان ذا مروءة ومن كان ذا مروءة كان كريما ومن كان كريما كان رحيما وأحب الخير وناصر العدل وأمر بالمعروف ونهى عن المنكر. So the translation is that the seeker of knowledge is a seeker of truth, and whoever seeks the truth loves the truth, and whoever loves the truth is truthful, and whoever is truthful is courageous, and whoever is courageous embodies honorable and chivalry, And whoever embodies chivalry is generous, and whoever is generous is compassionate, loves goodness, support justice, enjoy what is right, and forbid what is wrong. So these characteristics of a Muslim scientist and researcher should be the characteristics of a true seeker of knowledge. As a Muslim in a workplace or in a school, you should have your own niyyah. You should have your own intention in the first place. You should have your own principle. You should have your own standards and own motivations. As a Muslim, you should have a stance against the current scientific movement that is mainly driven by the money and the materialistic benefits of the capital ownership. So that doesn't mean we shouldn't seek the economic benefits and the materialistic benefits of knowledge, but we should prioritize in the first place our intention that seeking the knowledge is driven from our Islamic obligation and for the sake of Allah in the first place. And this will have to reflect in all your attitudes. I know that this may be challenging for many of us, especially students who has to be incorporated in a system that has to focus on researches that mainly driven by industry. And the industry will drive researches based on what the benefit will come. But at the same time, when you have the opportunity, you should always seek learning for the sake of Allah, probing the real scientific knowledge, even if it won't have a benefit for the industry right away. Because as we know, many of the knowledge that we will attain now will not benefit right away. It will be beneficial in the future, in the far future. So now my final thought in this khutbah is about how, as a Muslim, be consistent while believing in the scientific methodology and carrying out the scientific methodology every day, and at the same time believing in the unseen. And in order to answer that, I had to learn a lot about the philosophy of science and the philosophy of natural science especially. And by doing that, I found out that science is not absolute. The modern science that we live in, technologies that came out from applying these sciences are not absolute, and it has to change over time. So, how is that? If you look closely, you will find that the axioms of science and the scientific premises are based on a set of metaphysical principles. Metaphysical means beyond physics, beyond nature, and beyond materialism. These principles, aside from being not physical, they doesn't have a proof. We cannot prove these premises. We just follow the premises that we think they are sound. So we don't have a clear definition about the meaning of time. We don't have a clear definition about what does space really mean. This is not us. This is even scientists, best scientists who have Nobel Prize on the scientific and life and the chemical sciences. They all can't assure you that we have a clear definition about that. And this is why? This is because of the nature of science. Because science has to start from certain metaphysical and biological ideas that we cannot prove. And a major and important feature of science is one as in what is the most prominent philosophy of science theories is that was proposed by Karl Popper about the falsification of science. So you can't prove that scientific theory is true. You can only disprove a scientific theory. So any theory, in order to be scientific, has to have to suggest a set of experiments that if you done, you prove that this theory is not false. But you can't prove that theory will change. And we have seen this a lot in many of the movements of science. Like, for example, in the Newton's theory of gravity, after centuries of Newton, we found out that this theory is not complete. It can't be accurate, especially when dealing with big, like very far heavenly bodies, and also when dealing with very small particles. So Einstein has proposed the special theory and general theory of relativity, which corrects for that. Still, Newton's theory is still true in a certain domain, but general relativity is true in a more larger domain. And again, in the future, we are sure that this theory has to change in the future, and because it still has certain singularities that it couldn't solve, and certain topics and the questions that it couldn't address. And this will have to change in the future to more governing theory. And this will be always the state of science, that it's continuously changing, because we can't know the absolute. It's not absolute. We can't know the absolute truth. Even if we live by science, doing all our stuff or all the technological matters that we do is based on the current science, but that doesn't mean it's absolute. That's why we shouldn't take science as a replacement, as something that we're so confident about, and leave religion or think that this world doesn't need a creator and so on. In contrary, the more you learn, as Allah mentioned, the more you learn about the natural science and natural world, the closer you feel that this world has a creator, and this laws came to existence through chaos. So that's the end of my khutbah. Maybe this topic can be addressed more in another opportunity, but I know that it has a lot of elaborations that can be done. So عباد الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الكفر والكافرين يا رب العالمين. اللهم ألف بين قلوب المسلمين على الحق يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أصلح ذات بينهم واهدهم سبل السلام وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم يا قوي يا عزيز. اللهم انصر دينك وكتابك وسنة نبيك يا قوي يا عزيز. اللهم فرج هم المهمومين من المسلمين ونفذ كرب المكروبين. اللهم واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لموتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم وانصر المستضعفين في كل مكان من أمة محمد وألف شمل أمتك واجمعهم على الحق يا رب العالمين. اللهم اقسم لهذه الأمة أمر رشد يعز فيها أهل طاعتك ويذل فيها أهل معصيتك. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا واجعل العلم شاهدا لنا لا شاهدا علينا. اللهم وأرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم وبارك لنا في أرزاقنا ووسع لنا في ديارنا واغفر لنا ذنوبنا. اللهم وفقنا إلى ما تحبه وترضى وهب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد أقامت الصلاة قد أقامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أفتطمعون أن يؤمنوا لكم وقد كان فريق منهم يسمعون كلام الله ثم يحرفونه من بعد ما عقلوه وهم يعلمون ومنهم ومنهم أميون لا يعلمون الكتاب إلا أماني وإن هم إلا يظنون فويل للذين يكتبون الكتاب بأيديهم ثم يقولون هذا من عند الله ليشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فويل لهم مما كتبت أيديهم وويل لهم مما يكسبون وقالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة قل أتخذتم عند الله عهدا فلن يخلف الله عهدا وأن تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين وقالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة قل أتخذتم عند الله عهدا فلن يخلف الله عهدا وأن تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون بلى من كسب سيئة وأحاطت به خطيئته فأولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون الله أكبر
الله أكبر
سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum. Please stay for 1 minute. I have a statement from the Board of Trustees, CIMIC Board of Directors. Say congratulations to everyone in the successful acquisition of the new property for our CIMIC community. Thank you and Jazakallah khair to everyone in the community and friends of our community who have supported the purchase of this new property. All of us in the CIMIC community are extremely grateful to the donor and volunteers who help with this cause. Without your support and work, this would not have been possible. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our efforts and bestow His blessing upon our community. For next step and any other questions, please feel free to reach out to CIMIC board members or CIMIC fundraising committee member. Jazakumullah khair, and let me let you know that we receive money from widows. Their spouse used to be in this community from overseas and in the United States. We got donation between $1 to $40,000. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and keep supporting CIMIC and the Muslim community in Champaign-Urbana. There's some announcement. Jazakumullah khair again.
Assalamu alaikum. Our speaker today is Brother Muhammad Al-Ghani. Please donate to the masjid to pay for utilities, wages, insurance, and other costs. You can use the Venmo account at CIMIC. You can look for the QR code that's posted around the masjid. Hidayah Academy is looking for full-time and part-time elementary school teachers, especially for language arts. If you are interested, please email hidayahacademycu@gmail.com. The masjid needs people to work on summer camp for children and for youth. Call or see Brother Waleed at 217-819-8112 or Brother Bakar at 908-416-4035. This is for trips, sports, art, education, Quran, and science. Taekwondo is on Saturdays from 3 to 4 p.m. Adults are on after Maghrib on Thursdays from 5:15 to 6:15. Please take advantage of the wonderful program. There is a Ramadan feedback survey. There's a link that's in the announcements that gets emailed out. I'm not going to read that. The Lincoln Avenue door will be open for Friday prayers. Lunch is provided by a Bangladeshi family. Please make dua for the family. $7 donations requested.
Alaikum salam, Jazakumullah. Muhammad Jazakallah. He did not mention his background. He's a student in two fields. He just had his master in quantum physics and doing PhD at the same time in nuclear science and engineering. So he knows what he's talking about, and he has a struggle with really how to balance. And I remember it inspired me to read about the philosophy of science. So that's a topic that we'll ask you to come back to it maybe in the family night. I think that's very important and interesting. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll start the class of fiqh. It will be in the masjid here, and the flyer is at the entrance. You can scan the code that will take you to the WhatsApp group and the YouTube channel. So it will be in the masjid, inshallah. You don't have to register, just show up